Everything you've been told about reality is a lie, and deep down, you already know it. You've felt it, a quiet dissatisfaction, a restlessness that won't go away. Life feels scripted, the world feels fake. You play the roles, follow the rules, and check the boxes. But something inside whispers, this isn't it. Maybe the shift began slowly, a moment of silence where everything felt off. Or maybe it struck like lightning, a crisis, a loss, a betrayal that shattered your foundation. Either way, something broke. And once the illusion cracks, there's no going back. This is the beginning of the spiritual awakening, not a moment of bliss, but a brutal, beautiful unraveling. The first stage is disorientation. You begin to question everything, your beliefs, your identity, your history, your purpose. You look around and realize people are sleepwalking, talking, working, living, but they're not alive. They're repeating programs. And until now, so were you. You try to talk about it, but they don't understand. You're met with blank stares, forced smiles, or worse, judgment. You hear it again and again. Stop overthinking. Just go with the flow. This is just how life is. But it's not. You see it now, the cracks, the scripts, the systems built to keep people quiet, obedient, and small. And that's when the fear creeps in. Because if the world is a lie, who are you? Most people run back. They drown the voice in distraction. Scrolling, shopping, substances, noise. But if you keep going, if you dare to face the void, you'll find yourself in the next stage. Collapse. The world you once knew begins to fall apart. The beliefs you clung to, gone. The people you resonated with, distant. The goals you chased, hollow. This is the dark night of the soul. It's not poetic, it's devastating. You feel lost, numb, disconnected. Nothing makes sense. Nothing feels real. You wander through life like a ghost, mourning a version of yourself that never really existed. Your old comforts stop working. The shows you once binge-watched now seem meaningless. The small talk exhausts you. Your job feels like a performance. Your friends feel like strangers. The loneliness is overwhelming. You sit with questions that have no answers. Who am I? Why am I here? Is any of this real? The darkness deepens, and yet, something else is happening beneath the pain. Your masks are crumbling. The false identities, the obedient child, the overachiever, the people-pleaser, the follower, they begin to dissolve. You no longer know who you are, but you finally realize who you aren't. This is terrifying for the ego. It clings, it fights, it tries to rebuild the illusion. But the illusion doesn't fit anymore, like a costume that no longer belongs to you. And that's when something strange begins to emerge. A new sense of presence, a quiet awareness that watches the chaos but isn't consumed by it. You start to see your thoughts, your patterns, your wounds, not as who you are, but as programs running on autopilot. The veil is lifting. You are not your thoughts. You are not your emotions. You are not your pain. You are the one watching. And in that moment, something ancient begins to stir within you. A memory, a knowing, a spark that's been waiting, watching, through lifetimes of forgetting. This is the first real step toward liberation. It doesn't feel like victory. It feels like being stripped bare. But underneath the rubble of your former self is the one thing that can't be taken, your truth. You begin to seek, not out of desperation, but out of instinct. You are drawn to books you never noticed, Ideas you once rejected now resonate deeply. Spiritual teachings, ancient philosophies, esoteric symbols, they light you up like never before. Synchronicities begin, numbers repeat. A stranger says something that hits you like lightning. You think of a question, and the answer appears. You no longer believe in coincidences. Something unseen is responding. Something is guiding you, and still, you feel alone. You try to share what you're discovering, but most people aren't ready. Some mock you, others grow distant. You begin to see how deeply asleep the world truly is, and how much energy it takes to keep pretending. But you're done pretending. You'd rather be alone in truth than surrounded by lies. Because now you understand, solitude isn't punishment, it's purification. You're not losing your mind, you're finding your soul, and this is just the beginning. Something inside you is dying, but it's not your body, not your mind. It's the version of you that was never truly alive. You feel it like a slow collapse, subtle at first, then unmistakable. The old self begins to unravel. The beliefs, the roles, the identities you once wore like armor no longer fit. They feel heavy, foreign, false, and the more you try to hold on, the more they slip through your fingers. This is the death of the false self, the ego, and it is one of the most painful yet necessary stages of spiritual awakening. No one tells you how violent this death can be. It's not quiet. It screams, it thrashes, it clings to everything that used to define you. Your status, your success, your relationships, even your pain. Because the ego is nothing without a story. It needs a name, a past, a wound to protect. It needs a role to play. The victim, the achiever, the lover, the rebel, the savior. It doesn't care if you're suffering, as long as it stays alive. But now, you see through it. You realize the ego is just a mask, a character built from programming and repetition, family expectations, cultural conditioning, childhood trauma, society's praise and punishment. You didn't choose the self you've been living as. It was given to you, and now you're letting it die. That death is brutal. Everything becomes unstable. You no longer know how to answer the question, who are you? Your job title feels meaningless. Your hobbies feel hollow. Even your name starts to feel like a costume. You stop reacting the way you used to. You stop chasing validation. You stop defending your identity. And with every piece that falls away, you feel both fear and freedom. You are not ascending yet. You're dissolving. It's like watching your reflection in a mirror shatter, one fragment at a time. And in those broken shards, you catch glimpses of something raw, something real, something eternal. This is where your intuition starts to awaken. Not the kind of intuition that makes you guess someone's name, but the deep, knowing kind. The kind that bypasses logic and speaks in sensations. A full-body yes, a soul-level no. You begin to trust it more than your thoughts, more than your friends, more than what the world tells you is right, because now you feel the truth. It's in the way your body tenses when someone lies, the way time disappears when you follow your curiosity, the way synchronicities arrive like breadcrumbs from the universe. You don't need permission anymore. You don't need validation. You start walking your own path, even if no one else understands it. But the ego doesn't go down without a fight. It whispers, if you let me go, you'll disappear. If you surrender, you'll be nothing. If you don't play the game, you'll lose everything. And that's the trap. Because the ego measures life in wins and losses. But the soul doesn't care about games. The soul seeks truth. So the war begins. You have moments of clarity, deep, luminous presence. You feel vast, boundless, connected to everything. And then the old self creeps back in. Doubt, fear, anger, shame. But this time, you witness it. You don't become it. And that's the difference. Before, you were inside the storm. Now, you're the sky. You're no longer interested in playing roles. You're no longer interested in being liked, approved, admired. You want something real. And that means stepping into the unknown. People around you won't get it. Some will feel threatened. Others will pull away. Some will accuse you of being distant, cold, arrogant, ungrateful. Let them. Their reactions have nothing to do with you. Your awakening will challenge every relationship that was built on a version of you that no longer exists. Let those connections fall away. If they are meant to return, they will find you on the other side. This is the stage of shedding. You declutter your mind. You delete old versions of yourself. You strip away attachments, addictions, and beliefs that never truly served you. And slowly, the silence grows louder. At first, it feels like emptiness, like a void. But soon, you realize the void is not a punishment. It's a blank canvas. You are not becoming someone new. You are returning to who you've always been. And in that return, you feel peace. Not happiness, not excitement, not even love. Just presence, stillness, being. This is not the end of your awakening, but it's the end of pretending. You no longer need a script. You no longer need a mask. You no longer need to prove, chase, or defend. You are empty, and in that emptiness, you are free. And now, the real journey begins. After the false self dies, there is silence. Not the silence of loneliness, but of space, of openness, of potential. At first, it's unsettling. You've spent your entire life hearing a voice inside your head that told you who to be, what to fear, and how to survive. That voice is quieter now. It still whispers sometimes, but it no longer controls you. And something else begins to speak. It's softer, slower. It doesn't shout like the ego. It hums like a song you've always known but forgotten how to sing. It doesn't argue. It doesn't panic. It just knows. This is the rise of your inner voice, your true self, your intuition. And once it awakens, everything changes. At first, it feels subtle, a strange certainty, a gut feeling you can't explain. You walk into a room and feel the energy shift before a word is spoken. You meet someone and immediately know whether to trust them or not. Then the synchronicities begin. You think of someone and they reach out. You feel pulled toward a book, a place, a path, and it's exactly what you needed. You see numbers repeat, 111, 222, 444. A stranger says something that answers the question you never asked out loud. This isn't coincidence, it's coherence. You're aligning. The outside world begins to reflect your inner world, not because you're manifesting desires, but because you're no longer interfering. You're not chasing, you're listening. You realize that the universe has always been speaking to you. The signs were always there. You just couldn't hear them over the noise of the ego. Now, you trust the unseen, and that trust terrifies the people around you, because your new guidance system doesn't make sense to them. It doesn't follow logic or social norms. You say no to things you once pursued. You walk away from people you once tried to impress. You stop explaining yourself, and suddenly you become a mirror. Your freedom exposes their fear. Your intuition challenges their programming. Your authenticity threatens their control. They'll call you irrational, unstable, rebellious, irresponsible. They'll question your decisions, your timing, your sanity. Let them. You no longer need to defend your truth, because your compass is internal now. You no longer make choices from fear. You make them from resonance. You don't seek approval. You feel alignment, and that changes everything. You begin to walk a new path, a path that isn't linear. It's not a straight climb, it's a spiral. You revisit old wounds, not to suffer again, but to see how far you've come. You move through cycles, release, integrate, expand. You learn to sit with the unknown, not in anxiety, but in reverence. Because now, you understand, not knowing is sacred. You don't need to have it all figured out. You don't need a 10-year plan. You need presence, openness, willingness to trust. This is the birth of true inner guidance. You stop reacting. You start responding. You stop forcing. You start flowing. You stop performing. You start being. And the voice inside you, the real voice, grows louder. It guides you to new passions, new people, new places. You find yourself learning skills you never thought you'd need, speaking truths you never thought you'd say, creating things you never thought you could. Because now you're not limited by who you were. You are becoming who you are. And through it all, you keep shedding beliefs, labels, attachments. You stop holding on to ideas that once defined you, and you realize you don't need to be anything to be everything. You live differently. You wake up without dread. You move through your day with awareness. You speak less, but say more. You love more deeply, with fewer words. You don't look for signs. You are the sign. And yet, this stage comes with its own test. Because once you've begun living from intuition, the world will push back harder. Old energies will try to re-enter. Patterns will attempt to return. People from your past will reappear, hoping to reattach. This is not regression, it's integration. The universe is asking, are you sure? Have you truly changed? Or are you still playing the same game in a new costume? Stay still. Listen. This is the part where most people fall back into the illusion. They interpret resistance as a sign to stop. But those who've heard the inner voice, they keep going. They walk into the storm, and they emerge with something unshakable: sovereignty. You are no longer owned by opinions, no longer swayed by outcomes, no longer ruled by time. You are rooted, and from that place, the external world cannot define you. It cannot tempt you. It cannot distract you, because you have become the still point in the spinning world. The storm no longer touches you. You are the eye. By now, something fundamental has changed. You've stopped reacting. You've stopped seeking. You've stopped performing the identity that once kept you safe. And now, you're beginning to live from a place most people never reach: freedom. But not the kind the world sells you. Not the illusion of freedom measured by status, money, or control. This is the freedom of someone who no longer fears their own truth. Fear is what kept you trapped for so long. Fear of judgment, fear of rejection, fear of being alone, misunderstood, unloved. Fear that if you stepped outside the roles and rules, you'd lose everything. But now, you've seen the truth. The only thing fear ever protected was the illusion. It kept you small, quiet, obedient. It made you chase approval instead of alignment. It made you doubt your path, silence your voice, shrink your light. And once you see that, really see it, fear begins to lose its grip. It doesn't disappear overnight. It still shows up. It still whispers. But now, you recognize it for what it is: a shadow, a program, a ghost from a past that no longer defines you. You've stopped negotiating with fear, and that's what makes you dangerous to the systems that rely on your submission, to the narratives that feed off your compliance. Because once you stop fearing the unknown, you become ungovernable. You no longer follow, you flow. And from this place, life starts to move differently. The things you once chased now come to you. Not because you manifested them, but because you cleared the space for them. You made room for what's real by releasing what wasn't. You trust timing. You embrace uncertainty. You surrender the need to control. And in that surrender, you find peace. But it's not the peace of avoidance. It's the peace of presence. It's a quiet confidence, a grounded openness, a sense of being held, guided, known, not by some external force, but by the deepest part of yourself. The world doesn't understand this kind of freedom because you stop explaining yourself, you stop defending your choices, you stop trying to be understood. You just are. And that being speaks louder than words ever could. People feel it. They sense something different in you. Some are drawn closer, some are pushed away, some are inspired, some are afraid. That's not your burden to carry. You're no longer here to fit into anyone's version of reality. You're here to embody your own. This is the moment most people never reach. They stop at awakening. They stop at healing. They stop at seeking. They don't realize that the final step is letting go of the need to keep searching. Because the truth was never something to find. It was something to remember. And now you do. You remember who you are. You remember where you came from. You remember what this was always about. Not escape, not enlightenment, but embodiment. Bringing the divine into form, not to rise above the world, but to walk through it, awake. You become the bridge between the seen and the unseen, between the human and the infinite, between the question and the answer. This is what real freedom looks like. You no longer fear your own light. You no longer hide your depth. You no longer shrink for the comfort of others. You love without attachment. You create without expectation. You serve without sacrifice. You move through the world like the storm has already passed, because for you, it has. And even as challenges arise, you meet them from a different place. Not from panic, not from ego, but from presence. You've become the calm, the stillness, the frequency of truth. And now, the only question that remains is, what will you do with this freedom? Because most people will never taste it, but you have. And once you have, you can't go back.